Well, hello everybody. This is Dr. Carmen Bryant and this is Car Chronicles. How are you guys doing? I hope everybody's doing well. You guys ready? Let's do this. Okay, so yesterday I made a video where I was talking about the frustration, dealing with that narcissist. And I was telling you about, I was listening to Bishop T.D. Jakes and he was saying that, which was awesome, that frustration is a sign of investment. An investment, and then so I have to get it right. Frustration is evidence that there's an investment. An investment leads to expectation, because anytime that you invest in something, there's an expectation that comes along with that investment. And for many of us, we invested in the wrong thing. So we had unrealistic expectations of what we invested in, and it was a poor investment because we didn't know. And what was presented to us, it's almost like false advertising. It was that bait and switch. And so today I wanted to talk about the forgiveness. You've heard me talk about this before, and a lot of you guys are like, I'm not getting ready to forgive. One thing that I have learned, and thank God I have an exceptional mentor, a leader, a mother who cares, about the direction in which not just me, but her other kids go through. And not go through, but in the direction in which we're going. She can see where we're going and where, that's what you want a mentor to do. A mentor can see not just where you're at this particular time, but where you're going. And they're focused on your destiny as opposed to where you are right now. They'll help you through that, but they're going to get you to your destiny. And having said that, when it took me years to understand forgiveness. Because I was married for 20 years, was in the situationship for 22 years. Now, even though I was married and he was not, he lived a single life, and he lived his life as a single man, as a narcissist, as a single man. It wasn't a real marriage. So I had no concept of what love really was, because I never really had an example of healthy relationships in the first place. I thought, just like on The Color Purple, I did things kind of backwards. I did things backwards, and then here I was married now, because at the end, after I had my kids, later on, I met this person that presented, because I put the script out there, he presented this dream life and how he out, which was a total nightmare. It wasn't a dream, it was a total nightmare. And it took years for me to learn to forgive, because I did not understand what forgiveness truly was. And one thing that I have learned from my mentor, Apostle Helen Sadler, my mom, is that forgiveness has nothing to do with them. She just did a broadcast last night where she kind of talked about it. Please go check out her Instagram and check out her Facebook. Into His Chambers Global Ministries, or Helen Sadler, I think is your Destiny Helper. I'm not sure which one is on Instagram. But that forgiveness has absolutely nothing to do with that individual, with the person that has offended you, because you have been offended, because you were invested, remember? And there was expectation. And for a lot of us, we had false expectations. But it took me years to understand. And I teach this, I'm adamant about teaching this, because I had to learn to forgive. And I learned that forgiveness does not mean, because most people under the assumption of forgiveness, just like I did, to forgive means that I'm giving you a free pass. Because when you're in a situationship with the narcissist, their expectation is that you forgive them. They don't want forgiveness. They want you to let it go and leave it alone so they can continue doing what they're doing. You're making me uncomfortable by being hurt. You're making me uncomfortable when you are yelling and screaming and holding me accountable and wanting me to be responsible. So I need you to get beyond that. So you need to forgive. You need to forgive. And really, it's not forgiveness. Just I need you to be quiet so I can feel comfortable about doing what I'm doing without being held accountable. Well, I realized that forgiveness hasn't anything to do with them, because I, like many of you, thought that if I forgive, I'm giving you a free pass, because that's what I was accustomed to in the situationship. When I was out of the situationship, and I've told you guys my story before, part of the story before, he was pretending to be married to somebody else that looked very similar to what I did when I was younger, but he was pretending that was her, that her was kind of me. And so a lot of people assumed, because the Army is a very small place, my children were in the military. So even my daughter's friends thought that was her mother. And she had to explain, no, he's married to my mother. That's not my mother. So he was, even though he didn't say out of his mouth, you know how narcissists are, they're going to say it out of their mouth, they're going to present something and then let you assume, and then when you say it, they'll say, I never said that. But that's what they do. They play a role. And so, you know, he's playing house with someone else, pretending to be married to this individual. And of course, the individual, whatever he was saying, was also taunting me, you know. And you guys know that a lot of you who have been through this situation yourself, you know, if you got a little gangster that was inside of you, you know, you want to do what you used to do back in the past. And so I had to learn, you know, and this is something that my mentor had to drill in my head, is to forgive. And to forgive means I can't react, because his expectations were for me to react. And of course, that's what he presented to the new supply, that I am reactionary, and that you need to safeguard yourself because this is how she is, because he knew the old me. But I had to walk in forgiveness. I had to learn to shut my mouth. I had to learn to be quiet. I had to learn to not react. You know, every fight is not my fight. I don't have to react and say something all the time, even though I was hurting. And at the same time, to forgive him did not mean that I ever had to have a relationship with him. To forgive him doesn't mean that, you know, to forgive someone does not mean you have to have a relationship, does not mean that you are right, does not mean I'm giving you a go free card. And she said it last night, Apostle said it last night, you know, but to forgive you means I'm also going to reassess the relationship. I'm going to reassess it because you'll never get that close to me ever again. You know, you'll never be that close to me again. I don't have to be mean and hateful. I'll be cordial, but you'll never be that close to me again. You will never have those same rights, privileges that you used to have at one point in time. I'm going to let it go because I'm going to free myself from the bondage that I'm in. And you guys have to remember this as well, that when you're walking in unforgiveness and you say, I'll never forgive that individual, all unforgiveness does is breed bitterness. And you become bitter. Anyone that looks like this person, anyone that acts like this person, anyone that sounds like this person, you're triggered all the time. Person drives a car like this. They wear specific type of colognes. They like certain type of music, and they remind you. And so you walk around, and all that unforgiveness is doing is breeding bitterness, is breeding, you know, hostility. You see those people that they can never be happy for anybody else. You know, those bitter, especially like women, you know, and men too, you know, but women, they become bitter where they can't even, you know, applaud someone's relationship because they'll always find some flaws in other people's relationships. They can't be happy. They're bitter, angry people, just like the narcissist. Bitter, angry, unforgiving people. Narcissists walk around in unforgiveness all the time. All the time. That's why they are the way that they are. And you have to watch yourself, because forgiveness is you unlocking yourself out of the cage. Because you have to remember that with a narcissist, they plant those seeds in you. That's what they're grooming, and they're training you. They're planting seeds. It's hot in here, y'all, but they're planting seeds in you, and they're planting seeds waiting for that harvest. And the thing about it is, though, they plant those seeds of doubt, they plant those seeds of anger and bitterness. And guess what? All they have to do, even when they get away from you, is just wait and watch, and you'll self-sabotage. They'll watch you self-sabotage. They don't have to do as much work anymore because you're self-sabotaging off of the echoes from the past. And so forgiveness means that I'm going to free myself from the bondage that I'm in, because every time you think about it, every time you think about the situation, you become angry, you cry, you're bitter, you never see yourself. I want to be happy. Well, for some of you guys, you got to get you got to get to the root of the problem. The root of the problem is that you haven't let it go yet. I haven't let it go because you don't understand what he has done or what she has done to me. If I was to tell y'all everything that happened in my situationship, you guys would be surprised that I had to walk away and forgive, that I even walked away without blowing up an entire island. You know, and that's for many of you guys as well. Some of the things that you guys have been through. Everybody doesn't tell everything. You know, everybody doesn't tell all of their story. But the thing about it is, I had to learn to forgive. I had to learn to forgive. And now I'm not tormented by what has happened to me. I'm not tormented by what he did, how he did it, what he did to my children, what he did to their lives. You know, the aftermath of me now having to work with my children with the aftermath of what the narcissist has done to them as well. I can walk in forgiveness. And the beautiful thing is that for many of you guys, you're so bitter that you can't even have a good relationship with a woman or with a man. You know, a lot of the women, you're bitter. And so the person that you're trying to date that may be a good person is you're causing more damage than you're causing there's more damage than that you're damaging a whole nother person. This person is having to pay the price for everything that another person has done. And, you know, one thing you have to do is I refuse to go in and tear somebody else's life up because I know what it feels like. Because that narcissist is just like that. Go from life, to person, plant these seeds of destruction and self-destruction and tear up people's lives. Do you want to be like that? then you have to learn to forgive. Forgiveness is not about that person, but forgiveness is about setting yourself free, making yourself free from the bondage that you've been in. You got to forgive.